Welcome to How I Lead, a new series of interviews from Thomson Reuters. My name is Steve Acey, and I'm head of Canada for Thomson Reuters. In this series, I talk to leaders of the legal profession in Canada. I talk to them about what best practices they have to share with other leaders. I'm joined today by Cindy Clark, the new Toronto Regional Managing Partner for BLG. Cindy's career spans 25 years. In her practice, Cindy works with clients in the healthcare sectors focusing on hospitals, defense and malpractice actions, and representing her clients in all manner of civil and regulatory disputes. Cindy also defends against class action claims against pharmaceutical companies. BLG traces its history back 200 years. Today, it has over 1,000 legal professionals and 800 lawyers across 5 offices in Canada. Billing itself as Canada's law firm, BLG offers clients bilingual national reach in both common law and civil law systems, as well as global reach through its international network. I will talk to Cindy about her career at BLG. After that, Catherine Galton, CEO of HUROC, the Healthcare Insurance Reciprocal of Canada, will join us for a discussion of how BLG partners with HUROC in an innovative way. HUROC is a not-for-profit organization specializing in healthcare liability insurance and is committed to partnering with its subscribers to create the safest healthcare system. BLG and HUROC's partnership won a 2013 ACC Value Champion Award. 10 years later, the partnership is still growing strong, and I'm excited to talk to both Cindy and Catherine about what has made the partnership successful. So for now, I'll start with you, Cindy. I'd like to start by asking you about your career and how you've gotten to where you are now. How did you first make the decision to attend Western University Law School?
Oh, good afternoon, Steve. So great to see you. I'm one of those people who always knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I grew up in Orillia, Ontario, small town Ontario, and my dad was a criminal lawyer in town. And so I have 2 siblings, and of the 3 of us, I was the one in his office filing, always just sort of knew it's what I wanted to do. I went to Huron College for an undergrad and found myself at Western Law. Seemed like a good fit at the time.
So you're about to graduate law school. How do you decide which law firm to join as an associate?
Well, I had the good fortune of having a summer position at the time. It was something that one thought about in second year. I never did. I went to law school assuming I too would have a small town practice, likely doing criminal law and the like. But then when I got to school, I saw these opportunities and met people. I actually got engaged through client counseling, and a number of our current partners, Kevin McGivney in particular, was one of the judges. So BLG came down to the school basically, and I got to know some of the partners, and it dawned on me that perhaps I might like to spend some time there. So I did, and I've never left.
What was your career at it as a new associate like? All law school students are wondering what it might be like to work at a large firm. What was your experience like?
Well, it was wonderful. So in the summers when I was here, and then in my first year was the end of Borden and Elliott at the time, and then we became BLG, Borden Ladner Gervais, in 2000. So it all happened just that within months of my arrival. So it was surprisingly warm and connected. I had a vision as a student, and I suspect many students do, of a big law, big place. People won't know who you are. You're just a number. Nothing could be further from the truth. I found myself connecting with a group of professionals who really were passionate about what they do, expected the best of one another, were willing to train and mentor and support, and I was really lucky.
So you originally imagined yourself as a small town criminal lawyer. You ended up in the healthcare sector. What drew you to healthcare?
I think it was the opportunity to work on mandates really closely connected to people. Obviously, all kinds of law and all kinds of aspects of work we do, I now better understand, really affect people are behind everything and every decision. But in the malpractice work we do, we are really involved in supporting and meeting with nurses who get up every day seeking to help others and do the right thing, and involved with patients and their families who go to pursue healthcare hoping for a certain outcome, and just really found all that attractive. And the way our relationship with HUROC works, there's lots of opportunity for, and this is still true today, to really get involved with files. So from day one, I was doing inquests, I was handling matters, I was doing discovery. So really found myself attracted to the hands-on opportunities that I had.
What was your transition to partner like?
Now that is a good question because I just trying to remember, I became a partner in or around the time that I returned from maternity leave after my first child. So there was a lot happening. And I would say one of the best things that happened to me is that our group welcomed me back with files. So they in the firm didn't make any decisions for me about what my life would be like as both a new partner and a mom and how that all was going to come together. Basically said, we're here, we're going to support you in whatever way you want, and really just found lots of ways to make it work. As a partner, you have more responsibility. People think it's this achievement. There's no putting your feet up on the desk. You can do that for a brief moment. But then really you need to focus on accelerating and moving forward and building relationship and taking on more responsibility. So ultimately I loved it because I got to do more of what I really enjoyed doing, and I had more opportunity to direct traffic, so to speak.
So one thing that you're known for in the market is your use of flat fee agreements. And I think you're really kind of ahead of your time in the use of that billing model. As generative AI and new technologies come to the market, we're talking more and more about how the billable hour might change. What best practices do you have for the use of flat fee agreements?
Well, we have a number of them both in the health law area and across the firm. And I would say they're all based on the same principles, which is how do we use the information we have about our client and our prior work for the client if we have it, or similar work for other similarly situated clients, and how do we use that to best predict where we're going to go. So how do you I look at hours, I look at staffing models, I look at complexity, and then have a conversation with the client and say, what are you looking for? Because sometimes, if I use, my son would be better at the car analogy than I am, but sometimes you want a Rolls Royce, but other times you actually only need a bicycle. And if you get a Rolls Royce, it's really unhelpful because you really just needed a bike. So you really need to understand what it is that the client is looking for in a particular matter. And when you do that, then I think it's you can come up with arrangements that generally work. And of course, you need to have a conversation. What happens if it goes sideways? How much risk are we going to take on as a firm, and how much will a client take on? And I find more often than not, we're good at coming to alignment around that.
So we have to talk about your new role as regional managing partner for the Toronto area. Where do you see BLG going in the next 3 to 5 years? What is your vision for the region?
Well, I'm so excited. First of all, it's a real honor to be elected by one's partners into a role like this. It's almost overwhelming. I would say a lot of doing what we do well already. You mentioned at the outset, we're celebrating our 200th year here at BLG. And I think that's astonishing to be part of such history. And I think we've been the future of law. That's what we think, is always thinking about the future and what's next. So what I really see for this office is having our professionals engaged in all aspects of important business life in this economy. So there's health and technology and infrastructure, financial services, just to name a few. Of course, we have energy and energy transition. So I really want to see our professionals engaged in all those aspects of the economy. And of course, be recognized as the leading professionals they are. We have leading professionals in all of the areas of practice. That's the benefit of working at such a great firm. So leading practices engaged in our economy, and then also community engagement. We have many wonderful people across the whole office who do tremendous things. I think we could do a bit more together. So I would love to see the BLG office have true impact in our community externally, and think about how to use our space here to invite more of the community into our space and share our space with the community. So thinking about a number of ideas in that regard.
Can you talk a little bit about your talent development strategy here at the firm and how you ensure that you're bringing new lawyers up to speed and integrating them into the BLG culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we're so proud of. I think ever since I have been here, we have really prided ourselves, like professional excellence, integrity. Those are the foundation of who we are, the foundation of our reputation. And so we have a professional, I would say there's kind of 3 components. One is a formal structural structured national education program, and some of it is by year of call, so all year ones participate in everything across year one. And then there's components where you divide business or dispute. So at year 3, nationally, we get everybody together and they run a trial. And we have this incredible trial advocacy team, and people all get together and have this intense time with our leading practitioners and judges. And then our business team will do the same. So they're going to learn skills in a different way. Then as you progress in your career, you're learning more business development, client relationship, practice management. So that's the structured side of it, which is already so impressive and awesome. And then we have mentoring, which is a foundation, again, of who we are as a firm, training, bringing along people, and do that through teams and recognizing that our clients depend on us to train others and to work with them. So have a structured mentoring program. And then I would say informal, looking for different ways to make sure that we have opportunity for connection, for people to spend time together, to meet people across different practices. So you're not only spending time with people in your practice, you're learning from people in different areas. And if you had a challenge or a question or a situation, that you would have a network of people with whom you could reach out. And I think we've been successful at that. And I know I've talked a lot, but we're so proud of it, that our diversity and equity and inclusion program, and it really is a program. Many of us hope it is something we do every day, but we recognize that we need to be very thoughtful, very structured, and very particular about how it is that we infuse all of our practices with diversity, equity, and inclusion principles. So I think that helps. I think it helps the mentoring, the bringing people along, and the training. It has been a challenge through COVID, for sure. And we're really hoping that we think we've done a good job bringing our people along, but I think we know we've got, all professionals have work to do.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to Catherine and you about how BLG is bringing those attributes to its client service.
Well, that would be great. You should definitely test this with Catherine, because we talk about it with a lot. So great. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Catherine Galton now. Catherine is the CEO of HUROC. HUROC and BLG have a unique award-winning partnership. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Could you start by just sharing a little bit about HUROC, what the organization does and what its mission is?
Sure. So HUROC formed about 36 years ago now in response to a crisis in the insurance industry as it related to hospitals. So either too expensive or unavailable to have coverage. And 53, 55, depending on the day, hospitals in Ontario got together to form what is called a reciprocal. So essentially, now over 800 organizations across the country, many more hospitals than 800, that are really coming together in order to provide liability insurance, but generally, so made up entirely of hospitals, intentionally so, not for profit, and therefore a big focus on not how we think about paying out claims, though of course we have to do that as patients may be harmed, but really how you avoid it, and the recognition that in every instance, if there's a legal action, there's someone who's been harmed. And so how is it that we work to avoid that? And so a big focus on patient safety and a big focus, obviously, on appropriately managing claims as they come forward in that sector. So.
And I understand the organization has been rapidly expanding across Canada.
Yeah, so started in Ontario with 53 hospitals, pretty quickly moved to Manitoba and Newfoundland, but recently really picking up more provinces, particularly in the West. But again, a real focus on the value proposition of what they were trying to achieve around, yes, having insurance, but having it in the context of how we best care for patients. So yeah, just quite a significant growth over the last couple of years.
So Cindy, can you talk to us a little bit about how BLG and HUROC partner together, and how did this all come about?
Yeah, we partner together in so many ways. Actually, we're really lucky to get to do that. It came about, I think, as a consequence predominantly of the growth that HUROC was experiencing, and we've partnered with HUROC from day one. So we've had the good fortune of doing work and handling the claims and working with HUROC around an approach to claims and claims defense that matches HUROC's mission, which is patient safety, recognizing when there has been harm, but also recognizing it's really important that all the funds that are spent on malpractice matters, including payouts and legal, really would otherwise go to health activities. And so we need to be really principled about how we approach it. So I think we had some very common principles that we developed around how to defend claims. And then as HEROX was growing and the claims environment shifted a bit, I would believe it was about 2004, 2005, even earlier leading up to that, was just an acceleration such that it became clear that the traditional model of the billable rate, although we'd been working well together, I think we thought we could, like many things in the health system, if we looked at our processes and looked at what we were doing and how we were doing it, we could find efficiencies. And I think that is what began the journey of partnering and having a relationship in a different way.
Catherine, BLG has obviously been a partner of yours for many years. What strengths has BLG brought to your team?
I think it's huge. I think it's very easy to get into our area of the law and think about defending and how is it that we have success in legal actions, and yet for BLG and for HEROX, it's really been an understanding of the full context that we're working in. So if you think about it, every time a legal action is brought, it's a patient who may actually come for care the next day. And the co-defendants are people who work together, and therefore the tension and how you manage those claims. And so BLG's had a great receptiveness to what that means. They work, of course, a lot with hospitals outside the context of litigation, and therefore have that as a big piece. But I'll say it's not the usual in litigation that you would have what's the philosophy around this, as opposed to let's win this action. And so therefore the context, I think the humility of that, frankly, of being willing to understand the context for the people we serve and what's important to them, was really attractive, and kind of it came together in a great way. I'll say I'm a lawyer as well. It's not universally the experience, and so it's really that. The willingness to think about the context and have the humility to say, maybe our clients actually know what's best when we're doing these things. And it's not all about what's fantastic legal defense, but it's not all about that.
You must have seen a lot of lawyers here at BLG working on your matters. Can you talk a little bit about the quality of the talent here at BLG? Yeah,
so it has to be a starting point, and it absolutely is. So we know it, but we don't question it because it is so apparent in every action. You have people who are really, I think there's high legal knowledge, but there's equally high EQ, and that comes together in a way that's phenomenal. But we have lawyers who know healthcare. They know our clients. They know what's important to them, and of course they're brilliant legal scholars. And so the marriage of that is difficult, very difficult to find, but yet found here. And so we're thrilled about that.
That's great. Cindy, as I understand it, this partnership has a unique fee structure in that there's a flat monthly rate and then a bonus each month awarded based on key performance indicators, KPIs. Can you talk a little bit more about what those KPIs might be? It's kind of unique to structure a fee agreement that way.
Yeah, and I would say the KPIs, as we've identified them, have evolved over time. So what we have done from the beginning of this arrangement, but the details have shifted depending on the priorities and needs of, frankly, both organizations. So we do have an arrangement where we have a fixed fee for an assumed volume of work and number of claims that we handle. But we look at KPIs, again, associated with the business. So sometimes, some years and some agreements have really focused on the volume of work and the efficiencies that we can bring. So what are process efficiencies? How can we standardize our reporting, for example? How can we look at claims and develop a defense strategy relative to the claim complexity? And I think as the agreement and our relationship has matured, now we think about how are we spreading work across our team? Do we have the right allocation of work? So we're always having, frankly, much like they're doing in healthcare today, really thinking about scope of the profession. And so do we have enough people doing, for example, all of our paraprofessionals operating to the full scope and ensuring they're doing enough? Do we have our first and second and third years doing enough? So titrating the work across the stream, thinking about succession planning, because it's really important that we for all the reasons Catherine mentioned. Our team, it's not just about knowing the law. We need to know the context, the clients, the environment. It's a reasonably small bar, the malpractice bar, and then even more nuanced as between physician, defendants, and hospitals. So you need a succession planning. So we spend a lot of time focused on that. And of course on subscriber satisfaction. So HEROC tells its subscribers that when they get sued, they're going to be defended. And it's really, really important that they understand and are happy with how that's being done and that they're respected and yet done in a way that is very efficient. Because if we do it, you can overdo in that category as well. And then you find you're spending a lot of money and we're looking and saying, what was the value for that? So those are a few of them now. And we've moved, we don't do it every month because some of those features, as you can expect, kind of take a number of months to evaluate. So we have a cadence of check-ins and we look at different components of the relationship at different times of the year.
It seems like it really aligns the fees that the organization is paying with the value that it's getting from its legal services.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's key, and all of these indicators are quality. They have to be about the quality of the service, the quality of what the people who need defense are looking at. They have to be about the quality of professionalism that is brought to the claim. It's easy to go and fight hardy, but you need to actually be thinking about who's on the other side. And to be frankly described as the professional in doing this. And so I think lots of the indicators are related to that, but appropriately bringing along, we're going to be around. We'd like that there won't be claims in the future. We're not going to achieve that really quickly, but to say that we bring this philosophy forward and the people who are coming behind Cindy and others is just so important. So that succession is a huge part in the development of professionals with that professional stance on how you provide service.
Are there any other benefits you'd call out as a result of this partnership? And has this really, we talked about your growth at the start, has this really enabled your growth in some way?
So it's allowed us to prove the value proposition really quickly.
Yeah.
So if you bring good people into the relationship that you've developed with hospitals and other healthcare entities early, of course, it justifies the decision. They know that's where we operate from. The fact that we've done it in one portion of the country travels quickly, and so I think the fact that BLG contributes to that is very much there. I think we have so much that's value add. So we have in the contract, for example, I don't think we've mentioned, has an innovation fund. So we think about what's important to the system. What should we be proactive? It's not in the context of claim, but what should we be thinking about during the pandemic? Huge pieces around having regular forums to talk about things that were consistently issues for the whole sector across the country. So BLG, and sometimes with the Ontario Hospital Association, whoever it is that is most representative and can bring forward the issues that are very pertinent to the health system. But to do that, not in the context of a claim, but in the context of service for how people might have consistent questions that they shouldn't be having to ask 800 times, however many times that might come forward. So even, I think that's huge, but the focus on innovation, what can we do to make it better for both subscribers, for the legal process generally, has been a huge focus.
And how do you measure that? How do you, at the end of the day, say, okay, yes, we were innovative? And
we do it in a few ways. I think early days, the innovation, and thank you for raising that, Catherine, because I think it's really important, as are our indicators around outcomes. So of course, that's when we talk quality, we also have particular outcome measurements. But I think it really depends. What's great now is we have innovation projects that are identified. So initially, those were more focused on process and how we report to one another, relate to one another, and how we handle claims. And I know this will be exciting for Thomson Reuters because I think inevitably we're going to be headed back in that direction as we think about AI and generative AI and the work we've done together over the years. How can we use that and use that information to make sure we're continuing to be efficient. So I foresee that coming to the fore again. But in the meantime, having developed a lot of efficiencies around process management type issues, then we've really focused on, as Catherine was saying, the subscribers, which are essentially hospitals, and what are some of their processes. And so we've been good at saying, here's a project, here's the goal, here's the ambition, the participants, the outcome developed. And really they are oriented towards this idea of what can HUROC, as itself also a not-for-profit, provide to the system that would add value. So is there a guidebook we can develop? Is there a best practice? And then share it and rinse and repeat and use it over again. And it's often very much about that, is taking a new way or a new learning or an approach and making sure it's as widely available as possible to others. And I think a more traditional approach might be to hang on to it and think about how to create value out of that one thing. And I think our partnership together more is about creating value by sharing and spreading and then thinking about what's next.
So can you give me an example of a specific innovation that's come out of this partnership?
Sure. I've worked in different provinces in the country, and many provinces have actually amalgamated health systems. So if they have something that arises, for example, an alert from Health Canada that says this piece of equipment may need to be taken out of service, maybe it's had issues previously, you may need to notify patients. In most jurisdictions in the country, you get a common response, and that's organized. In Ontario, you have 142 hospitals, and so you could see how that could really be a scattered response, with patients maybe hearing different things in different ways, with different timing. And so it was really identified as an area where it would be valuable to set out some mandatory consultations, like let's see how we get our brains together, and then what the process might be around determining how you might deal with that situation. And so we worked with BLG to develop that. And I know, Cindy would have been hearing about this many times over, perhaps, Cindy, but
Yeah, I think it's a great example because it really benefits the health system because of a consistency of approach and an understanding, and people can just get on with doing what they need to do with some confidence, and then they'll call us with the one-off. But I think we might have had any number of calls from different hospitals and at different stages when they've already done certain things or not done. So sort of not particularly effective for the system, for patients who are really, and or providers, depending on the notice or look back that's being recommended. And so it's a really good example where we said, here's an issue, we can bring value, we want to make the health system better together, use our knowledge, and it was a great partnership and a really good innovation that we're obviously both very proud of.
yeah, if you can imagine if BLG is getting 25 calls, maybe 12 other firms are getting 10 calls each. And so, it really doesn't serve the system or patients, frankly, that they get a confused response, perhaps, in relation to something that impacts them. So it's great. It's wonderful to do.
Fantastic. Cindy, can you talk about some of the other benefits that the firm sees from the partnership? I mean, I assume predictability of spend is one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one, it's an honor, and there's a great group of us who are just delighted and, have found our professional passion, being able to work with HUROC, both because of the organization, but the philosophy and principles it brings. And I would say the relationship has allowed BLG to lead because we have the flexibility to try things. Not everything works. We experiment. I think we have also built, as a consequence of how we have to work together internally at BLG around best practice and efficiency and file management and team. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. We are a team, and I think we work with Catherine's team and HUROC in that way, and they know if they don't get Cindy, they're going to call Pat. There will be a consistency of response, and it's not about individuals competing with one another. So a huge value to BLG is really letting us think about how we build really strong, high-performing teams and do that in service of a client. And I think we also are able to replicate that in other ways. So that's a huge benefit.
One important aspect of any partnership is a feedback loop to let each other know how you're doing. What does your feedback loop look like, and how structured and frequent is that?
So Cindy mentioned that we have regular check-ins with each other, and so that's at least quarterly. And so we'll look at the parameters that we've outlined as key performance indicators, but also just generally how's the relationship going. For example, the how frequently BLG is able to appropriately manage succession by the introduction of a new team member who is really qualified to do this is a conversation that we have as they occur. But we also go to our subscribers regularly. So I'll say they will not be silent about poor service, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so we do that. We check in every year. We check in after the closing of a significant matter. And so the feedback comes to us, both from subscribers, and then of course we share it with BLG. But I'll say, we have the great, I'm the CEO, I shouldn't be involved in claims very much,
Right.
and I'm not. But the conversations at the senior leadership level about what's important here, are we straying from the philosophy at all? And that regular check-in occurs through informal meetings, but we do check in at least quarterly on the big things that we've established are important to measure.
Great. Well, thank you both so
Thank
much.
you.
It really does seem like a gold standard partnership. It's endured for a long time, and I know it'll endure long into the future.
No, thank you. Yeah, and look, I've been around. It is quite unique, and it's I think a gold standard. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.